thanks for the invitation. We are just starting a new government in Chile, and again, wait, he said again, okay. So it's a pleasure for us to be here because we are really looking forward to move a very big agenda with many reforms going on, because as the government we are committed to achieve the reduction in poverty, and even more important than that, I'm not saying that poverty doesn't matter, but we are looking at the whole system, and we realize that in Chile there are many vulnerable people, so we are trying to improve our social protection system, moving much more than only for in a poverty dimension. So that is why we need to move forward and improve the way that we have been measuring poverty since '87. We still are using the same poverty line, basic on only income. So as a government, we are start working in a new measurement of poverty to be implemented this year. And we are considering two main issues. The first one is to update the country's absolute poverty measure based in income, and so we are looking at the basket and all that. And in the second way, we are trying to implement a new approach in a sense of measure vulnerability and multidimensional deprivations. And we are not just, because we say how we are going to do that in only 1 year, but we are taking as the main step an expert commission that was established at the end of 2012 that was implemented by the past government. They call a commission with many experts from academia, from social society, I mean the civil society, from many places, and that commission gave a report that was given to us in February this year, and in that report they include changes in the current income poverty measure in order to capture better, the reality of a country which is a country with almost $20,000 per capita, so it's very different than the one that we used to have in '87 when we had the poverty line that we are still using. And the other thing is that they suggest us to use a multidimensional poverty measure based on the Alkiri-Foster method, and they suggest 5 dimensions: education, health, employment, and social security, housing, and community networks. So education, health, employment, and housing, and community networks and environment. And that is why we are taking that report, and we have been analyzing that report because they said, okay, for poor, we will take household with incomes below the income poverty line, the new one. And for extremely poor, they suggest to have a household with incomes below the income extreme poverty line, which is 2/3 of the poverty line, and 1/3 of the higher level of deprivation of this dimension that they suggested. This dimension has 16 indicators with different scores and ponderate. And vulnerable, the household with incomes above the income of poverty line, but if they have their income is below vulnerability line, so they mix the income poverty measure with the multidimensional measure, and also they have if they have 1/3 or higher level of deprivation in the other indicators. So at the end, what they suggest is something like this, where you have the poverty line, which is the income poverty line. I'm sorry? And then the extreme poverty which is a mix between income and multidimensional deprivations, and the vulnerability, which is a new income, like another poverty income line, higher than the poverty, and the multidimensional. These numbers that you see here, the percentage, is just an estimation that they made based on 2011 information from CACEN. Now, as a government, we are working on CACEN 2013, which is the survey that we use to measure poverty and all different type of indicators to measure vulnerability, income distribution, and many other things. So, in the past, the poverty in Chile, the information is based on CACEN, but the poverty is being measured by CEPAL. That is been since 1987 to 2011. What we are doing now is to generate a new type of institutional arrangement, because we believe that we need to encourage to have an institutional within the government, but autonomous or with certain degree of autonomy, like the National Statistic Institute, but that is not something that happened one day from another. So we are now working in an interinstitutional task force with our minister, the Minister of Social Development, with the National Statistic Institute, but with the support of people from CEPAL. And we have been looking with a lot of detail to each one of the recommendations made in this, by this commission, in order to conclude that work and be able to measure a multidimensional measure of poverty and the new official line based by income by the end of 2014. So we are very into a rush. We don't have time. We believe that if we do it now, it's better than not doing it for many years. You know, in Chile, the discussion of changing the poverty line is been taking many years. You know, you saw that the same line is being used since 1987. So it's not because no one else thought that we should change the line. It's just that, you know, poverty and politics sometimes are very close. So we believe that we need to do it now, and we are working with an expert committee of academics too. That there is another committee that is being taking care of all the part of the survey, CACEN. So we really believe that is a good survey and is a good data to be used in this new challenge. So we are here, and we want to you to help us, of course, to take a look of these recommendations, and after, you know, our discussion from this ministerial work task force that we are committed to implement. So maybe it's going to be good for us to be here and to listen to your advice of the way that we are thinking to move forward. Okay, many thanks.